It makes me happy.
Right.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
Yes.
And another thing I wanted to tell you, you may want to have, or is your show mostly about women?
No,
Women
it's
on
about
TV,
everything.
or is it? Okay, because one day you might want to have Darren Charles on your channel. I don't know, you know Darren Charles from Pro Bodybuilding?
Yep.
He's sitting right next to me, but one day I think maybe that would be a good.
Why doesn't he come on right now?
Exactly.
He's eating his chicken over here. He's literally eating his chicken over here.
Because he just came from work. That's why.
He just came from work, so ciao.
We would love that. We would be honored to have him on.
Yeah.
Would he want to come on briefly today? Just, you know, at the end?
Or today?
I can see you're the one who's very adamant.
Yeah.
All day I've been.
Mary gets what she wants, right?
No, I just don't ever want us to isolate, you know, men. I don't want them to think that, you know, I'm not that girl. So we need men, and I just don't want men to feel. I did post just now on Facebook saying, no, we want to know what men want to hear too. I don't want to isolate them.
Yeah. No, I'd love to come on. Maybe we plan some of the. All day I've been talking to clients, and I was just on FaceTime with one in Hawaii, and I'm like all talked out.
Yeah, so we'll get him on another. We can get him on another time, and yeah, when he's prepared, because I think he's a little wore out.
When I can get my hair done.
When he can get his hair done on time.
Yeah.
I'll let you and Sherry work it out. I would love to have him on. How's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, Elaine, you're so smart. You just have a platform.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are.
I did make some notes. I wrote down the questions that your clients had asked on Facebook, so I can answer questions that they care about as well. So,
Elaine, I'm glad you said that, because I want to ask the 2 eating ones, and then I want to do the mentally prepared one. Then we can go into the you know what I mean, the self-worth issue. If we could do that, Brian, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
But it's funny, everyone wants to know what you eat.
Okay, I'm going to start this in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, here we are. It's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, Worldwide TV Network, ITT47 out of Tennessee. And got to start off with, all the way from Saskatchewan, Canada. She didn't know. I knew she was. But really, Las Vegas, Florida. Elaine Goodlad, and all the way from British Columbia. So I got to make you women look big, because you really are. I mean, us men were just little heaps right here, you know. But it's all.
That's right.
Sherry Nelson.
Those Canadian women, let me tell you.
Hey, I love Canadian women. They're always really nice. I mean, for whatever reason, I think you're a special breed. I'm not joking about it. I really am.
We're nice to.
I think you and Hugh Hefner agree. Hugh Hefner always said we were lucky for him.
Well, Hugh and I always had great conversations about Canadian women. I'll tell you guys one day.
You should. That's an interesting topic right there.
See,
that's a coffee table book right there.
Sherry,
that's a late
because Sherry didn't know
show.
that one. Sherry, I'll put up that picture of me and Hugh later. How's that?
Perfect.
Let's do the Hugh Hefner show after 11 p.m.
Okay. So Elaine,
sure.
Talking about from Saskatchewan, which I know of because I found a great vodka company out of there. That's not a big thing.
Vodka.
But in general, when did you know when you wanted to be an athlete, and especially when you were running track? Because I was always been fascinated about that.
So when did I know I wanted to be an athlete? You know, when I was a young girl in school, I was involved in volleyball and track and field. And I don't know, it was kind of funny because I was a farm girl. Remember, as we discussed in the last show, I was a farm girl, so it was always about strength. If you're gonna be on the farm and you're gonna pick rocks, believe it or not, we had to pick our own rocks. We couldn't afford a rock picker, which was a machinery. So my dad just sent his kids out into the field, and we picked a lot of really heavy rocks out of the ground. And you always took pride in how physically strong you were. So when I was about 20, and I knew I needed to work around these eating habits that I had, which were pretty crazy, I might add. I was kind of obsessed with food since I was a small child, but that's another whole show. Okay, we'd have to save that for another whole show. But I started weight training to work around my eating habits. That being said, I really needed to work hard in the gym. So I knew nothing about the gym. I knew nothing. I walked in there, I didn't know what one piece of equipment was. So when I first started training, it was just familiarizing myself with the gym environment for the very first time, and I was around 20. Just
Elaine,
because of,
yeah, no, so many of us, myself included, you have the essence of healthy living and vitality. And I had asked some people on Facebook if they could submit some questions to you. And a very good friend of mine, Deb Kopak, she was wondering about diet. And she wonders, when at that time when you were 20 and even to today, what healthy foods is your go-to, and what foods would you definitely avoid?
okay, so there's an answer for that as far as if you're in competition mode, if you're just in regular stay healthy mode, or post-contest mode. There's all kinds of different ways you can do your diet or your eating plan. I would say that when it came time to the really staying healthy and being focused on a competition, for instance, the foods are very specific. So my go-tos were always, in that era, oatmeal. I could eat oatmeal literally 5 meals a day if I had to have a carb. But I would love to have, potatoes with some avocado. That was always tasty. Sweet potatoes, I had to build an immunity for because they were a little too high in fiber for me initially. But the oatmeal was always big, so I always ate rice. Of course, as far as protein went, it was, eggs, chicken, fish. But I would always just find fun ways to cook those foods, because if you're going to be eating the same thing every day, and of course, let's not forget about our vegetables. It was always important to have asparagus was a favorite of mine, green beans, just to make sure that, and big salads. If you're going to get a voluminous meal that makes you feel a little fuller, you can make a beautiful, nice big salad. I would throw in some cherry tomatoes, some, chop up some bell peppers, things like that, just to make it interesting. And then some kind of a vinaigrette dressing. But those were always just my key go-tos as far as eating that really healthy diet. And then once you're going to start getting ready for a show, you would specifically narrow those down to portions. So portion control is very important, obviously.
I didn't get another question, Sherry.
I'm sorry, Brian. No, with that, Chance from Chance TV actually stepped in and wondered, during your, competition training, was there anything that you craved? Were you a salt or a sugar, or was there a particular food that you just couldn't wait to have after?
That's a really good question, because when I was competing, and like I said, I had a bit of a food obsession since I was a little girl. So when I was competing, the only way I could keep it under wraps was knowing how I had to get ready for the next show. So you have to be very careful. But I really did crave, as far as sweets go, more like apple cobbler or peach cobbler, that kind of a pie thing. I've always been a big fan of the pies and cobblers. And
it's
apple
a comfort too, because you're in that mode, so it's a comfort.
Yes, it was such a comfort food. And then if you could put a little scoop of ice cream on a hot bowl of apple crisp, there's nothing better. But honestly, I'm more of the salty foods, like the potato chips and Cheetos and things like that. That was more my thing, as far as if I was gonna, when you're invited to a barbecue or a picnic, the first thing I do is go over to the table and start putting potato chips down.
That's
It
what I
just-
do. I thought I was the only
don't-
one that did that.
No, potato chips are my weakness. I could actually give up sweets any day of the week. Oh yeah, potato chips all the way and Cheetos. So that was probably my weakness. And I would always have bags of things along with me as far as going to competitions and needing that extra little thing after a show. That would be my thing, just potato chips and Cheetos.
See, this is helpful because when I would look at magazines, and before I had reached out to you years ago, it was almost like those girls in those magazines, you know, were not human because they're disciplined. And so it's refreshing to know that you're like us with the Cheetos and the chips.
Oh no, listen, let's get real for a second, okay?
Yeah.
When it's competition time, yes, you have to buckle down and be really super strict. There's not a lot of leeway. You have to keep that window of variance very, very small to make sure you're going to dial in correctly, right? But when you do have an opportunity to have a cheat day, which was usually once a week, it's supposed to kind of be a carb up day. For me, I took it to another whole level. I was known in the industry for my cheat days. So I would have people who heard about my cheat days want to join in the next time I was going to have one because they wanted to witness it. So it was kind of insane. And yeah, I would really take that cheat day to another whole level. So then after a show, I would start the second I walked off that stage. I had stuff in my bag. I would start ordering my Philly cheesesteak pizza. I would eat a large Philly cheesesteak pizza by myself, including all the Cinesticks. And then, you know, cookies, if there was any fresh hot rolls, anything like that, I would be putting it down like nobody put it down. It was literally crazy. Kind of embarrassing.
Elaine, what day is your cheat day?
My cheat day was normally Saturdays. And it would start from the moment I put my foot on the floor in the morning to midnight, if I could get away with it. I would literally consume as much, and I'd have it planned out. I'd have the breakfast over at IHOP. I would order pancakes, French toast, roll-ups, everything, French toast. And then whatever I liked the best, I would order again after I was done eating all that. It was crazy. And then
Those poor
burgers, I
patrons.
love burgers, I love pizza, that kind of thing.
But can you imagine, Brian, if you were at IHOP and you saw Elaine walk in as she looks, and also she's ordering all that food, and you'd be like, really?
That's why I didn't feel guilty, because when I got there, I thought to myself, okay, I'm ripped and I'm going to order all this food and nobody can say a thing about it because, hey, I look good. Why can't I eat all this food, right? So it was kind of an interesting time for sure. Yeah.
Elaine and Sherry, you'll be happy to know, once a month I was doing a Fit Fashion Friday. It was called Fitness Fashion Friday, and it was the cheat day for everybody in the for that. And I would do a little event either at the house or at the W Hotel in Hollywood, and all my fitness friends would come, and I would order pizzas, popcorn, apple pie, all that stuff, and watch them eat everything. It was hilarious because no one would really see them on their cheat day. That's why I asked what day yours was.
Exactly. Well, and now I don't really have a cheat day. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. But the thing of it is with my lifestyle, I literally do. I eat whatever I feel like eating. I'm really big on, I'll go have Thai soup or pho soup, seafood, you know, I'll eat whatever I want. But because I've been doing this so long and because I've been on that restricted diet, and I can eyeball anything and I know what exactly I'm taking in and how much of it. I think that now I can just make sure that moderation is still normally the key. I don't have any desire to overeat anymore. And again, because I suffered from that food addiction for so long, and I got a handle on it in my mid-40s. I literally was healed from that, whatever it was, in my mid-40s. And that's another whole show because it has to do with neurofeedback and biofeedback to reroute neural pathways in your brain when you have those underlying issues that cause you to need the food. The food addiction becomes a coping mechanism, essentially. So, like I said, that's probably another whole show.
Well, Elaine, for that, just briefly, is for something like that, do you recommend somebody, if they think they have an underlying cause for that, to perhaps keep a journal, write down how they feel, the day, the weather, and what they did that day, maybe almost to understand your mental state and where it takes you, and maybe seeing it in print, that would
Yeah.
help you recognize it,
That's a
perhaps.
really good idea to journal, because the more you understand, the better. But from my experience, I will tell you, even if you write it all down and you know what you're eating, when you're sad, when you're happy, how that affects your diet and your eating habits, the bottom line is, when there's underlying issues, let's just say from your childhood, that you have not dealt with, all of this eating, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, or food, whatever the addiction is, if there's an underlying issue, that has to be fixed before the other stuff gets normalized. And so until you realize, okay, I've got a deeper problem, and this just keeps perpetuating my coping mechanism, which for me was food, it's not going to go away. You can journal, you can use the power of your mind. Yes, it can help, because you can be so aware that you're trying to get yourself straight and live a healthier lifestyle. But until you get those underlying problems really solved, I'll tell you what, when I finally did go and do that, and for me it was the neurofeedback, I went to Miami to a place it's actually called Pathways. But when I went there, and it was many, many sessions, but I got my neural pathways in my brain rerouted, so to speak, it was gone. My coping mechanism was literally gone. I literally had to, from that point forward, remind myself to eat. And I went from food addiction to going, oh, I guess I better eat. It's been a while. And that's just not, I was actually shocked that my brain was even working that way. So like I said, it's a wonderful topic, because I have so many girls sitting in my chair. Like I told you, I do makeup, 30 minutes at a time. I get to talk to these women, and there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of women who are drawn to this industry because of the rigidity of the diet, the training, everything that creates so much structure in their lives. And sometimes the need for that structure is the need for control. And the more of a need for control you have, you got to figure out what are those underlying issues that cause you to need that amount of control if it's an unhealthy thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. Wow, I did not know any of that. That's it, and it's a place called Pathways in Florida.
It's called Pathwaves, WAVES, so Pathwaves, and it's in Miami, and it literally saved my life. Because
Wow.
what a lot of people don't understand about me, or didn't while they were watching me through the magazines and the competitions, is I suffered from depression the whole time. So, but that was from a small child, so I was used to depression. It was the normal for me, but I didn't like it. Nobody wants to be depressed. So my coping mechanism was food, and that just became a really big thing in my life that I thought about all day long, every day. Whereas when I got fixed and all those underlying issues were dealt with, food was no longer an issue. I have no coping mechanisms. I just live a very normal, balanced life. And that didn't happen until my mid-40s.
Wow.
It's interesting on that.
Like I said, there's so much to say.
Well, you had the
Yeah, I was
platform
going to say there's
it.
so much to say about that. Yeah, that it's almost another whole show. Honestly, it's pretty deep.
Well, a lot of, and Sherry, you may or may not know this, a lot of my friends got into the world of fitness and going to the gyms because they did suffer from anxiety or depression or a lot of things like that. And that was their way of getting it out. Two of my co-hosts, I had no idea, came to me when they acknowledged this, it came out on the show. I literally looked at them like, I didn't know that, because I like to work out like fit training outside and things like that. So I don't need to go to the gym, because I looked at it a different way. And I'm like, I always said
Right.
years and years and years, what would happen if we took the gym away? How would they cope? Guess what happened? The gyms are taken away and they ain't coping too well, are they?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's more so than not. there's more individuals that have these kinds of issues that, like I say, when you ask yourself, who's drawn to an industry where the training is extreme, the diets are extreme, everything about it is rigid, planned out, structured, extreme. That's a special kind of person, or a person who has a lot of need for control in their life. And so they're using the fitness lifestyle as a method to keep that busy, or to keep that structured, or just a lot of it's about control. And then you look at a lot of these people who that also that have eating disorders in some way or another, whether it be anorexia, bulimia, or just body dysmorphia. Any of these issues that revolve around our industry, there's an underlying problem. And if people understood, it's not about the food, it's not about the drugs. I had this woman come to me one time, and she wanted to know my opinion if she should go into figure or bikini. So we talked for about 2 minutes, and I looked her in the eyes and I said, okay, so how long have you had an eating disorder? And she looked at me with these big wide eyes, and then she started sobbing. And she goes, how did you know? And then she started telling me, I used to be an alcoholic. I used to just drink she basically replaced that with this, and none of the issues had been taken care of.
Yep.
So it's really, really important to realize there's counseling out there. There's therapists out there. The one that I went to, it happens to be, it's kind of like therapy on speed. What it does is it's done through sound waves. They do it for PTSD. They do it for war veterans. They do it for all kinds of people who have had serious PTSD in their lives for various reasons. And this changes those neural pathways in the brain to healthy pathways, as opposed to the destructive pathways that are caught in trauma. Because when you have a pocket of trauma in your brain, you're stuck there. So anything that triggers you, you're right back to that moment when you were traumatized in the first place. It's a really deep thing. And so if you can get past that trauma and start really living your life, let me tell you something. Anybody who knows me now that knew me before my treatment, they can't even believe I'm the same person. It's like someone unscrewed my head, put it aside, and screwed a whole new head on my shoulders. It's that powerful.
Wow. Well, it's amazing because, like you said, people probably turn to food, to alcohol, because they aren't judged by the food. They aren't judged by the alcohol they're drinking, but the underlying long-term effect is negative. So, you know, recognizing that is important. And my goodness, I thank you for saying that.
Hey, I'm here to help. I don't care what it is I've been through, I'll talk about it. Because if I've gotten over a hurdle and I can help somebody else, that's what this is all about. That's why we're here. That's why people with severe trauma or people who have had a really tough life, they're more likely to be able to help others than people who have had a cushy life. And, you know, I didn't always have it easy. I've been through a lot. I suffered from depression and anxiety because of my upbringing, you know, for many, many years. This affected my life. When I woke up at the age of 44 and actually realized I was alive, and like, I mean alive in the sense where I was not living before, it was the most incredible feeling. And I thought, why do people have to go through their lives like this? Why can't there be help? And when I found the help, I want to tell everybody, because there's ways to get around whatever you might be beaten down by a spouse. You might have had a really bad childhood. You might have witnessed somebody die. You might have gone to war and witnessed all kinds of travesties. How about that affects our brain instantly? We've got PTSD because of those things. Let's get it fixed. And when you know someone can rewire your brain, why wouldn't you want to go?
Well, and that's the thing, Elaine, is you're making it okay to question, to seek help. And it shouldn't be anything anyone's embarrassed by. We all live a different life. We all have a different path, but you want to take control and live your best life, as you have always said. So, you know, it's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. You know, if anything, you know, PTSD, we are learning more and more all the time with military, with victims of crime, how pivotal it is to help them get over it. And even to a small degree, you know, this COVID quarantine isolation, it pains me to think how many people are hurting, especially senior citizens who are isolated. I just, you know,
there's a lot of us who can work our way through that isolation and find the most positive things to do during that isolation and the most positive outlook to have because of it.
Yeah.
And some people are stuck in unspeakable environments during that lockdown that we can't imagine. And so, boy, oh boy, I think that I think these businesses with the places that help me, they should be very, very busy after this, because I hope people know, and I want people to know, you can look it up in Miami. It's called pathwaves.com. And it's a method of sound waves that sends messages to the core of your brain over and over and over. Let's put it this way. A 2-hour treatment is equivalent to a year of psychotherapy.
Wow. And
So
truly, it's a gift to yourself. So, you know, set aside, you know, shopping for shoes or something. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a gift to, you know, be the better you. So don't tell anyone you're going to do it if you don't want to, or tell everyone.
Yeah, you don't have to tell anybody, but I'll tell you what, we will justify spending money on things like clothing, shoes, purses, whatever our thing is, but we won't spend the money to fix our brain so that maybe we don't even have a shopping problem to begin with. Like, that could be another coping mechanism, you know? So yeah, I think it's really important to take our mental health very, very seriously.
Yes.
Elaine, talk about how was the travel going from the West Coast to the East Coast? What was that like for you?
Well, you know, and I was kind of nervous, but then I found out that people have been traveling all along. Nobody really stopped. I don't know if you were aware of that or if you fly, but I stopped flying, and I get on this, of course, in the airport, a lot of people are wearing masks. I really was taking the doctors seriously that said, if you want to stay healthy and you are healthy, do not wear a mask. So that was my thing, is I was not wearing a mask because I'm trying to stay healthy, and they explained all the health risks of wearing a mask if you're already healthy. And they explain who the masks are for. The masks are for sick people. The masks are for professionals in the medical industry. There's just different reasons for masks. But I personally went in there, and there was about 95 people on my flight. I had a whole row to myself, lay down, slept. It was wonderful. I had no problems flying. A lot of people were wearing masks. Mind you, on the airplane, I think they preferred it. And I did for a little while, but once I was laying down in there, I took my mask off. I had the whole row to myself. I didn't feel like I was that close. And they did explain too, especially Southwest Airlines, is they have a really good air cleaning system. So they amped that up. They amped up the cleaning. They amped up the air purification systems. And so I didn't feel funny about it at all. It was fun.
Well, what's your idea of training with masks? How do you feel about that?
Definitely not training with a mask on. We're not supposed to be breathing in that air that we breathe out. Okay. So I think most gyms that I've been into that have started back open again, they're concerned a little bit better about the social distancing, and they'll mark off every other machine that's usable. And then you're supposed to keep that distance between you and others. So I don't get up in people's faces when I'm in the gym to talk to people. I just go in there, I train, you know, and I get out, and nobody's hugging, you know, it's just kind of everybody's aware. But especially cardio. I mean, you can't wear a mask while you're doing cardio and you're breathing heavy and like that. Of course, I don't do cardio, but I'm just speaking for those that do. But in the gym, I was not wearing a mask so far while I'm training. That's just my personal preference.
So how about for doing makeup now? What do you think is the right way to apply makeup to a competitor, or just in general when you guys may be going to you know, when you can go into a bar or to a nightclub? How do you see that going?
Right. You know what? That's a really good question, because I don't think I'd really thought about whether or not I was going to wear a mask while I'm doing people's makeup. They may want me wearing a mask to keep everybody safe, because I'm very close up to their face. So you know what, I may have to break down and I have to honor that. I have to honor the environment. Everybody wants to stay safe. I have to be a part of that as well. So I think that as far as doing people's makeup, especially early on, getting back into it, I'm probably going to wear a mask while I do the makeup. I think that would be the responsible thing to do. I forgot the last part of your question besides makeup.
It was almost like that, you know, when women go in and they start applying their own makeup, when you could start going to bars and when you could start going to nightclubs. Because, you know, now you can't lip gloss.
Right. Right. Well, that's the thing. These shows are starting up again on the 11th of July. So that's my first day back is for the 11th of July. There's a show in Las Vegas and there's a show in Sacramento. And we will be doing, I've got my girls booked. I'll be doing their makeup just like any other time. And so they obviously are not wearing masks on stage while they're competing. I'm assuming, I don't even know what it looks like yet. Nobody's really talked about it. I know that as far as opening up a venue where you're going to have a crowd of, you know, anywhere around 100 people, maybe more. I don't know how many they're going to have, but we obviously have to abide by the rules of the place that we've rented out to have the venue. So if they say everybody wears masks, everybody washes everything down, everybody sanitizes, everybody wears gloves, we're going to have to do whatever they suggest. I know bars aren't open yet, I don't think, but I have been in restaurants and bar situations where at least they sat everybody well spaced out. But again, I go in restaurants and I sat at a bar to eat as well. I didn't wear a mask because you're not going to wear a mask while you're eating, but you do have to abide by the rules of all the different venues. So whatever they require is what I'm going with. I've always been a very healthy person. I have a very good immune system. I think I'm less at risk for being a healthy person. So as long as I keep my safe distance from people who maybe, I don't go and visit people in hospitals. You know, I'm not going to go places where I'm at greater risk, but I do feel, I'm just not concerned for myself that way, where I don't feel that innate sense of worry about it. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to stay as safe as I can, but I don't feel concerned or worried about myself.
So Sherry, we got about 3 minutes. I know you got another question from somebody there.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting back to your mental clarity. Our good friend Joanna from trendingme.ca, she was curious how, when you were competing, how you kept your mindset so focused and driven for that and determined for competing.
Yes, I wrote her question down, and that's a really, really good question. So in answer to that, when I started training back in the day, okay, we're talking in the 80s, I started in a powerlifting environment because my second husband was a powerlifter. So after I kind of got introduced to weights, I was being trained by my ex-husband who was a powerlifter. And what that does, not that I was ever going to compete in powerlifting, I wasn't going to be a powerlifter, but I was training like that. The intensity level is very high. I mean, we're talking headbutting, head slapping, getting ready for that heavy squat. It was like really intense. It was kind of crazy. But I took that level of intensity to my training for shows. So whether I was getting ready for a figure competition, it's all about your mindset. You have to be in a mindset where you can meditate, you can really get your head wrapped around your workout so that every single rep of every single set counts. And when you have a goal of being on stage and being one of the best in the world, and even if you're going in an amateur show, don't think of yourself as an amateur. If you want to be the best, you got to train like you're the best, and you got to compare yourself to the best. So basically, train like a pro. And how pros train is they're very serious about their craft. You're not going to get on stage and be embarrassed. You're not going to put yourself in that position. So you're training with a level of intensity that if you didn't get to do one more set in your whole life, how is that last set of yours going to look? It's putting the most amount of intensity. Every single rep counts, so everything has to be 100. And so I think I was able to keep my eye on the prize and keep my eye on that goal in order to keep that mental intensity there while I was training. Because, hey, you're in the gym for about an hour. You want to train as hard as you can and then go home. You don't want to be in there for hours and hours. You want to have it, get in, go hard, get out. So I think my mentality was, I'm going in here to do my absolute best. And because I had a good trainer and coach, which was my ex, Dietary Goodlad, he always would really push me that way and say, hey, if you don't do this rep right, you don't get to do another rep. So I want to see the best rep you've got. And if you do that one right, I'll let you do another one. And then I'll let you do another one. So it was kind of like getting in your head, every single rep of every single set counts. So do it 100% all the way through your workout. You're not dogging it. You're not coming out in there and complaining about how tired you are. If you're tired, what are you doing here? Go home and sleep. If you're hungry, why didn't you eat? If you're here and you didn't eat, too bad. You got to give it 100% because that was your mistake. So take responsibility, get in the gym, go hard, and then go home and take care of yourself. But get in that routine where you know you're eating right, you're training right, you're sleeping right. The rest is so important. The rest is one of the most important things you'll do. And people don't understand that sometimes. They think they got to work harder and longer in the gym. I would go for 1 hour really, really hard. And then it was time for a nap because during that nap is when I'm recovering. So I think it depends on how serious you are about your goal to maintain that intensity and to maintain that vision, that tunnel vision, and keep that alive.
I think that's when you say you take responsibility, that's so key. Only you, it's not the magic pill. You take responsibility for being better.
There's no magic pill. I didn't get there from a magic pill. I lifted some serious, serious weights. And what I did to lift that weight is I meditated and visualized. If I was going to get into a leg press, and if that day, and I was in my mid-20s, I think, when I did this, I had 10 plates aside on a leg press machine. And I'm a girl, okay? So what's going to make me lift all that weight? I'm certainly not going to look at that weight and say, oh my gosh, that looks really heavy. No, heavy's relative. Do I look at that weight and say that weight's not going to beat me today? Do I close my eyes, visualize my 8 reps, and then get in that machine and do them? That's how you do it, is you have to be super focused, visualize that set, and then do that set. But don't tell yourself what you can't do. Don't come in there unprepared, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I don't know why I'm here. No, focus. It's all a state of mind. And the intensity comes from what you believe or what you don't believe. So you better believe you're there to do some damage, or don't bother showing up.
So Elaine,
so good.
Give your social media links.
My social media is Instagram @Elaine Goodlad, ELAINEGOODLAD. I do Facebook as well. It's connected to my Instagram. It's just Elaine Goodlad. You can find me on any of those forums. That's pretty much. I know I gotta get more diverse with my social media. Maybe somebody can help me with that. But that's where you can find me. And again, I'm there for your shows. If you need makeup for your shows, if you just need a good consult or a conversation, or you want me to jack you up and get you inspired, I'm there for that. So you can actually hook up through Instagram and get a hold of me, message me.
And Sherry, yours really quickly.
Sherry Nelson on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, XOXO, Sherry XO.
And I'm Brian Sebastian. I want to thank Elaine. I want to thank Sherry for Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv and IT 247. And if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it.